In today's lecture, we are going to cover the testing conventional applications, how black box and white box testing is done with the test case design. So let's begin today's topic.
Testing purpose, we design the test case. So test case design is very important, and is to drive a set of sets that have the highest likelihood for uncovering errors in the software. So we will create a set of test cases that will uncover the more and more errors that may be available in the software. So in accomplishing that, we use the black box testing and white box testing. So black box testing, I told, in the black box testing we perform by using these methods like graph based testing, equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, and orthogonal error testing, and modeling based testings. We will do this one. In black box testing, we have seen we are not going through the internal composition of the internal part of the system, but as you can see, this layer, this interface, we will interact with this interface only, and we will put the all possible values. Okay, then we will check for all the options, all the functionality. If it is okay, then our testing will be successful. If it is not there, some error is there, then we will correct those errors. So in the white box testing, we have discussed in white box testing, we have the accessibility to the internal components also. So in the system, we internally checks the each and every functionality. Okay, so we do unit wise everything inside the white box testing methods. So we have the basis, path test, and condition testing, data flow testing, and loop testing. These many things we have that comes under this one. So I told you need to understand and you need to know these groups belongs to the black box testing. How many? These are the 5: graph based, equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, orthogonal array testing, and model based testing. Sometimes questions are also based on this one, which one belongs to. Suppose that I have taken 3 from this portion and I've taken model based testing from this portion. I prepared one question that which doesn't belong to the white box testing. So you will pick this one. Like this, the question can be formed. So you need to understand also. This is software engineering is a very important question for competition point of view. So many questions are asked from the this software engineering. So white box testing, I told, internal components also we see. So test cases are derived to ensure that all statements in the program have been executed at least once. Okay, at least one you have to execute to make the prediction that the functioning is proper. So during testing, all logical conditions have been checked. So whatever conditions, if else, looping, everything is there, you will check one by one. Next one, we have the flow graph. The flow graph depicts the logical control flow using the notion illustrated in the next slide. We can see here we have the sequence one after another. I told yesterday, if I am having I equal to 0 in the, say for example, I am taking the C programming, then I can do the operation over this one I plus 1. Okay, without initialization I can't do this one. So this is the sequence. After this, you will initialize this variable I, then a or I, whatever is there, then you will go for the next steps. This is kind of sequential. In if you will be having conditions, in the condition you will be having the branching, yes and no. Okay, so like that, according to that you will move. In while, this is a kind of loop. You will see a looping conditions will be there. You have to check where that loop is starting and what is the termination point. Similarly for this loop also, until next case is there, that is that in the case we have the different options at particular junction. Say for example, here I have different cases. So in the switch case design, we can use if you are putting some value, so based on the case it will the option will be selected and it will move to that directions. Okay, so many options will be, like you can see here 1 2 3 we have, but in if you are having only 2, so this is the when we are having the multiple choices, okay, at particular point, then we use this switch case then we have only 2 options, if the yes or no, then we go for the if. Okay, next these discussions very important, so pay attention and look at whatever I am telling. So flow graph, you can see here the graph arrows. So how you will see, we will come based on this understanding, we will perform some calculation in the next exercise, that is the cyclomatic complexity of the algorithm or method. So you can see here what is this, we have the edges, we have the region, and we have nodes. So whatever these points are there, these are called the nodes, these are nothing but the nodes. Okay, and whatever arrows, the flow you are watching, it is nothing but, we can say it is a edge. So and the bounded regions, the other regions whatever you are watching, these are the bounded, like here this bounding is there now, it is bounded by these node and branches, so this is called one region. This is also one region. Like that we identify the different regions, and outside of this graph is a first region. So like this we perform the counting. Okay, so that is why the things is written here. So this is nothing but a, you can see here, this is a kind of flow chart kind of things. I hope now it is clear. So next you can see here we need to find out the independent paths. What are those independent paths? This is the exercise in step 1. Construct the flow graph from the source code or flow chart, means what some program or flow chart we have prepared. Based on that we will construct the flow graphs. Okay, then we'll identify the independent path. How you will identify the independent path, we will learn this one also. And then calculate the cyclomatic complexity represented by Vg, and then design the test cases. So these are the 4 steps that we use in the this testing. So what is the independent path? Independent path means one flow, you can see here whatever the independent 1 2 3 4 5 6, and this side we are coming 8, and here we are coming 9, like this. Then one looping is coming, so this will be one independent path. Okay, so like this we frame different independent paths. We will see later in the examples. You can see here these terms, you understand. This is a binary search algorithm flowchart. In binaries there are different searching techniques like linear search and binary search. So for binary search, this type of flowchart is prepared. Based on that, implementation is done in the software. So you can see here how we can identify. So this is the node, this is the control flow, that is you can say it is a edge or branch. Like this you can see here, these are the edges. So if I say what is the independent path, there may be different independent paths. We will identify some of them to learn how to find the independent path. So one independent path may be the flow. You have to trace the flow 1 2 3 4 5 6. This 7 point will come 8 9 10 and 14. This will be one independent path. Next you can see here 1 2 7, you come here and you come here 11, then this coming the 12. This is one independent path. So you can same here, and this is one different the independent paths. So like this you have to identify these independent paths, and as well as the regions and the predicate nodes. We have the different nodes. I told these circles are nothing but the nodes. Then how you will identify these predicate nodes? So predicate node are nothing but the node which is having the out degree 2. Or there is a one more thing, if you are not able to understand, I think it is very easy to understand what is the out degree. Out degree means one node is there, some input is coming, so this will be called as a this node is, suppose I am telling this is a node T. Okay, so this node T now this time it is having in degree. What is in degree is 1. If I add one more coming here, then the in degree will be 1 plus 1. Now it will be 2. Okay, one more thing, if I draw one branch, you can say here the output is coming, so this will be treated as a out degree. So out degree is here 1, and if I increase one more, then this is the out degree will be 2. 1 plus 1, it will be counting 2. So for to be a node, a predicate, its out degree, degree minimum, it should be minimum 2. Then you will treat that node as a predicate node. Or you can say if there is a condition in some node, okay, the condition is there, then that node will be treated as a predicate node. So this is the two methods to identify the predicate nodes, and the regions R1, R4, like 3 you are able to see here. These regions are nothing but this is the area that is encircled by the node and the branches. So you can see here this region we are writing here R1. Why we are writing this one? Because it is bounded by node 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 14. So this is the one bounded region. That's why we kept here one region. We calculated this region. Similarly, one bounded region here, you can see here this closed boundary. See this cycle we are getting, so it is R3, and you can also see here this bounding region is here. So what is this? This is another R2 we can see, and outside of all the circles, by default one region we count. So these are the method to count the regions. Okay, different regions we can count. Okay, so in this graph, how many predicates we have? We have the predicates here. You can see this is one predicate. Why it is one predicates? Yeah, can anybody tell why we call this one predicate?
It is having 2 out degrees, sir.
Yeah, the out degree of this node is 2 minimum. Okay, if it is 1, then it is not applicable. Minimum is 2. Okay, and you can also, if you are not heuristically, if you are if you want to know answer how many whether this node is predicate or not, you can see condition, whether this node is having any condition or not. Like this, you can see here there is no condition at this point. There is no condition here, that's why it is not predicate node. So like this, here you can see I am having the this predicate node because I am having one branching this side. Okay, based on the condition, the control flow will divert. And similarly here also I am having the out degree 2. Okay, and you can say it is having the flow in different directions. Okay, so like this we can identify the predicates. How many predicates we are having here? 3 predicates. Okay, now let's go ahead in the next. So these are the independent path. You can see here I told how to calculate the independent. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 and 14. You can see here up to 10 we came here from this direction up to this one, then we came here. So this is one independent path. So one test case must be written, okay, which will check this condition. Okay, and for every independent path we have to create a test case. So all the independent paths will be tested to find out the errors. Okay, similarly path 1, path 2, path 4, dot means some loop is there. So test case should be derived so that all of these paths are executed. A dynamic program analyzer may be used to check that all paths have been executed. Okay, so we can check by dynamic programs also. So what is this? How to calculate the cyclomatic complexity, because it will indicate the complexity of your program or method, whatever you have prepared. So that's why we calculate this cyclomatic complexity. Okay, this is the cyclomatic complexity we find out to know. And this is also called McCabe complexity also. One more name is also there, you remember, otherwise sometimes the question is now changed. Okay, some question came and you are not able to identify or recall, or you have not heard this name, then you will be confused. So sometimes this MCCABE, McCabe complexity, so this is also one name that is used. Okay, this name is also used for this purpose. Okay, so this complexity, so cyclomatic complexity can be used to count number of independent paths. We can count the number of independent paths with the help of cyclomatic complexity. A number of industry studies have indicated that the higher value of cyclomatic complexity, the higher the probability of the errors, because we will be having the more number of conditions there. So automatically the complexity will increase and the chances of error will be more. Okay, so like this you can see here, this one. Okay, now see here this one, how we will calculate the complexity. So there are three methods. One formula is the cyclomatic of complexity is the E minus, this is E minus n plus 2. So E stand for edge and n stand for node, and 2 is the part of the formula. So like this we will calculate the different, like this we will calculate the different cyclomatic complexity. So you can look here, in the second method we are having what we have the cyclomatic complexity is equal to P plus 1, and P stand for, what is meaning of P? P stand for predicate. This this is the predicate nodes that we are having in the flow control graph. So that we will counting we already have, and we can calculate with this also the cyclomatic complexity. So how many nodes we are having, we can calculate here. Let's see here how many 16 nodes we have. How many? 14. How many nodes we have? We can calculate 14. So you can see here 14 nodes we have, and how many branches we have. If you will count now all the branches, these things na, so it will come equivalent to the 16. So 16 minus 14, that equals to 2 plus 2. So 4 independent paths are there, and we have created here 4 independent paths. Okay, so for these 4 independent paths, if you are performing the test, okay, with these test cases, so you will be able to cover all those possible error finding places. So like for that purpose it is using, there is one more method to calculate this. This is P. How many? We were having 3 regions. So 3 regions, and 1 is the part of this formula. So 3 plus 1 we are coming to 4. So here again the same value we are getting. So the number of predicates leveled we did there. So one more method is that you can count the number of regions. Based on the number of regions, you can also find how many independent paths are existing in the control flow of this program. So you can count here the regions. So 4 regions are there. So directly you can count, means cyclomatic complexity is the number of regions, and this method is P plus 1, that is a predicate plus 1, and here E minus n plus 2. So this formula is very important, please don't forget this one. Okay, next you can see here how the this flow graph is drawn from the coding. So this coding part we are having, so this coding part wherever the conditions are we are having. Okay, so else, if, else, every, for everything. So what we are doing, we are converting this first into the graphical format using these nodes. Then we found these things. So see how this testing is done, how these test cases are designed we have the source code. Based on this source code, we have converted into the flow graph. From the flow graph, we can find the how many test cases I have to carried out. So you can design the test cases. So see, this flow graph is part of this. It is generated from this source code. So you can see here what is here. 1 2 3 4. These are the how many nodes we have. We have the 7 nodes. And how many bounded regions are there? This one bounded here, this one is also bounded, and outside of these, that is also treated as one. We include the outside one, the region is as a +1. So these 3 regions are there. So how many independent paths will be there? The 3 will be there. So how many branches are there? You can count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and if you will include this one, you will get 8. So based on this, you can do the calculations. Okay, so these are the 4 independent paths. We have seen how many? 1 2 3. So 3, and if we are using the, what is this? Identify the independent paths. So number of test cases we are having here, how many? We have the 3 test cases. So there are 3 paths in this program, which independent paths, and they form a basis test minimum. Okay, you can do more also, but that is not going, that will waste your time, because in a larger program we have to minimize the test testing purpose or test case creation. Otherwise a large number of test cases will be generated. So like this, you can find out the cyclomatic complexity. Let's go ahead. So this is the cyclomatic formula that I told already, no need to discuss once again. So based on the previous one, these value are there. The 8 minus 7 plus 2, you are having the 3 value got. P plus 1, how many predicates was there? So predicates was 2. Okay, so you can see here one predicate is, where is this? This is the condition is there or not? How many predicates are there? Can anybody tell?
2, sir.
Okay, 2. Okay, 2 is there. So what is the formula for that? P plus 1. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. You can now calculate. And number of region is 3. Okay, I hope it is clear. See the fresh example of this one. You can look here. We can calculate the cyclomatic complexity of this one. Flow graph is there. So number of independent paths we can find 1 to 9. Okay, so 1 to directly 9 it is coming. Now see here, so one path will be there. You have to check for these conditions. Later on you can check for 1 2, then you have to move in a one direction. Okay, you have to complete one path. Okay, up to 7 like this come. So in this type you will calculate all the possible paths. Okay, before we go in the solutions, can we identify how many regions we are having here? Okay, so we'll do, this is one region. Okay, this is one region. Next one is the second region. This is also bounded region. From the nodes and branches we can write here 3. Is there any other region that we left with? No. And outside we will be having one region, so this will be the 4th region. Okay, so how many regions we are having now? 4 regions we are having as per our. Let's verify. So you can look here, 1 2 3 4 regions we having. So the test cases, how many test cases we will create? 4 number of test cases, 4 independent paths we can create, and we can test for that. And predicates, can you count how many predicates are there? The predicates is also 3. You have to count the out degree, na? You have to count the out degree. So where is the out degree? This one we have the minimum here 2 out degree. This place also we have one out degree 2. Okay, the condition is there, this one. And here also we have one direction, here it is flowing, and one direction is coming here. So this is also one out. This is cumulatively it will come to two out degrees, so it is also a predicate node. So 3 plus 1 we are getting 4. So this is the example of these cyclomatic complexity. Similarly, you can find out here also. We'll coming to directly solutions. So you can say how many independent paths we can create. Okay, so regions, it is having 4 regions. Again the same calculation will come. 4 regions means 4 independent paths will be there. After that you have to find out the predicate nodes. So what are the predicate nodes? Based on that you will do the calculations. Okay, we are coming to the solution directly. You can see here we have the 9 nodes, 9 edges and 7 nodes. 7 nodes you can count here. 7 we have how many? 9 edges and 7 nodes. Then you will come with the 4. Okay, so whatever the diagram is there, you can use your knowledge that you have learned how to calculate the edge and nodes. Okay, and predicate as well as the regions. You can come up with your this cyclo complexity value, and you can design the test cases. Okay, similarly for here also you can see this is a one node. How many 4 edges and 4 nodes. Based on that also you can do the calculation. 4 minus 4 and plus 2. So how many independent paths? 2 paths will come. So like this you can do the calculation. If I say this is one exercise for you, you can do this calculation by yourself. I am giving this diagram. Okay, you please draw. You can draw this, or you take the snaps at this time, screenshot from your mobile screen, and then you have to find this cyclomatic complexity of this one and this one. Okay, using all these 3 formulas. Okay, what were this? One is the one formula is the is minus n plus 2, and next formula is predicate plus 1, and third one is the number of regions. So these 3 formula, and all value will be the same. The value should not differ. So this is the exercise that you have to do what you have learned. Okay, next we are moving to the graph matrix. Okay, whatever graph we are having now, we can also create one graph matrix, and after creating the matrices, we can do the many calculations based on that. So how we are doing that we'll see here. So how the matrices are created? That is very simple thing. We have to draw one matrix in the rows and columns, and rows and columns, number of nodes in rows and columns will be same. So what we will do? We will find the direct connection among them. If they are having, then the weight value will be given, otherwise we'll put the 0. You can see here like this. We have one graph, and now you see one matrix we have created with this. So how we will do? How many nodes are there? We will write 1 up to 5, and same thing here. So it will be a square matrix. Okay, so in this what we'll do? The nodes and the connected to the nodes, how the connection will be there. So you can see here, if I say 1 2 3, so these value are nothing but these are the weight. Okay, these are the weights, these are the weight value. Or you can say, if I want to go from one place to see if I want to go from Delhi to Kolkata, so what is the distance? So this distance may be one value, that will be the weight. Okay, so like this we can use this weight value to assign. So I know I have the connection from 1 to 3, and weight value is A. So correspondingly I will write here. Next, do you have the connection from 1 to 1? Okay, so it is the same node. So next you can see 3 to 2. We have the 3 and 2. We have the weight to do. So like this you will come up with the one matrix, and based on this matrix you do the calculations also. Next is the condition testing. Condition testing also some combination of this type of operators also you can see in the if condition. Within that, when you are checking the conditions, okay, some boolean operator will be there, relational operator will also be there. Okay, so condition testing is a test case design, okay, method that exercises the logical connections, logical conditions contained in a program module. Okay, so this type also will create the test cases for less than, greater than, or possible values. Okay, and sometimes we use the boolean operators also. Okay, so we'll look in the next slides. So data flow testing, we'll see. Data flow means what, how the data is flowing from one place to another place. Okay, we have the data flow diagram also, but we see here the data flow testing method selects the test paths of a program according to the locations of the definitions and uses of variable in the program. Like path, we were each and every path we were selecting, and we are checking the flow of the data. It is very compulsory to check the loop constructs, whatever is there, and loop testing is the void box testing, because loop from outside you can't see. You have to go internal, you have to go into the internal part of the program, then you will be able to access this one. That's why it will come under the white box testing technique, and that focuses exclusively on the validity of the loop. What will be the initialization, the terminating conditions, incrementing is happening or not happening, one increment or two increment, whatever the incrementation per step you are giving. So you will use that testing method, loop testing method, and this is treated as a white box. Okay, next one is the black box testing. I told without going to the internal components, internal functionality, from the outside we will validate the functionality function requirements. Okay, functionality will check out. Functionality means if suppose I am having one camera, one mobile, the touch screen is working or not working. Okay, camera is front, rear camera, front camera, rear camera is working or not working. Okay, sound is coming or not coming. So these are the different functionality. Are you able to make the call? Okay, mic is working or not. These are the different functionality. That is the requirement of your mobile. That is fine or not. You will validate. Okay, after that you will come to the conclusion whether that is working or not. So for this, test case are designed to answer some of the following questions. Okay, what classes of the input will make good test cases? Is the system particularly sensitive to certain input values? How are system behavior and performance tested? How is functional validity is the testing? So these are the four questions that you will ask. So graph based testing, you can see we have seen already this graph based testing. We have the links. Okay, so we will create this graph. Why? We want to uncover the errors. So we are having in the graph we have the directed, some lines will be directed means it will be having some direction. So this is the flow it is telling. So from one object to another object, okay, there is a directed link. Okay, and it will correspond to some link weight. And you can clearly see here there is no arrowhead. Okay, so there is this is the undirected line. This is called the undirected line. And here you can see this is a parallel lines and some weight is there, weight value will be there. So this like this we create the graph and we perform the graph based testings. So you can also you can look at these wordings. So what is happening? It begins by creating graph of important objects and their relationships. These are the relationships. Okay, and then devising a series of tests that will cover the graph so that each object and relation is exercised and errors are uncovered. Okay, so like this, with the help of this graph we will find the testing, the relation between the objects, whether they are properly working or not working. So that testing will be done here. Okay, next one is very important, that is the equivalence partitioning testing. Okay, so what is the equivalence partitioning means? Whenever you are going to do the okay, this equivalence class partitioning method is part of the black box testing. Okay, this is part of the black box testing. In the black box testing, our objective is to check from the not going into the, by not going inside the internal component. So you can see here, you can look here. So equivalence equivalence partitioning divides the input domain into whatever input domain is there. Your input domain will maybe from 1 to 1000 values. This is your input domain. Okay, from this set of value you will choose the values. So what we are having, equivalence partitioning divides the input domain into classes of data that are likely to exercise a specific software function. Okay, so you can divide this into a disjoint sets. Okay, without breaking the conditions of equivalence. Okay, so what you will do here, you can see and look at one more definitions here. So equivalence class testing is the partitioning of the input variables value set into classes, or you can say subsets, using some equivalence relation conditions. And you know the some condition, the relation, whatever relation among the inputs are there, based on the relation you will partition these input domains into a subclasses. Okay, and you will what you will do then test cases are formed by selecting one value from each equivalence class. So it will reduce your work drastically. Otherwise, for each and every possible value, it is very difficult to check. If I want to check the conditions from whether if I write x greater than y, x less than y, so are equal to y. So what I will check here, I will check the value for the greater, and if I want to check the condition whether my value is satisfying or not, okay, some input domain, so I will check for the x, and you will not check all the bigger values. Okay, you will not check for all the lesser value of x. Okay, one or two value you will check for the, and you will finish it, and you will generalize that it is working for all also. Okay, so like this you will perform this type of partitioning to test, and from each class, equivalence class, you will select the one value. Okay, and you will perform the test. Otherwise it will be very lengthy task. So how you will do, this is the some guidelines has been given how to frame the equivalence classes. So it is saying if an input condition specifies a range, some range is there in some input conditions. Okay, then you create one valid and two invalid equivalences. Okay, some range is there, some range means you have set the range means I said. Okay, those say for example in your class also, if I set say some roll number in some any other classes, roll number 50 to 60 or 50 to I said 100. Okay, in a class of 200, I asked, teacher has asked everyone come in this range with 50 to 100. So this is the one range I told. So what I will check, so this is input value, I will pick from this one. So I will check for less than 50, whatever value means 49, is there any 49% is there or not, 48 is there or not, like this we go this side decreasing. Okay, and I will also go this side also, any person is who is having, the student who is having roll number more than 100 or 101, say for example 101, 102, is there in that or not, I will check for that also. No, so you can see here, so what this will be the valid. So whatever the persons will be with this range 50 to 100, so they are the valid one. Okay, so one valid class I partition, and next one two invalid. Okay, so two invalid equivalence classes I defined, and based on these ranges I will check for the test. I will create a test case and I will pick from this value. So for example, I have taken 49, so I will check, oh, this is the person, it is not there. Okay, that this condition will be checked. I will pick one value from this range. Okay, and I will check whether this is there or not. Okay, and I will check for the greater than 100 value. So only how many, if you can also check all the students 50 to 100 all, so this will be very tedious. Okay, just for example I am telling like this, you can create the different test cases. Over those test cases the testing will be done. So if next one is the second point, you can say if an input condition requires a specific value, so one valid and two invalid equivalence classes are identified. Similarly, 3, if an input condition specifies a member of a set, membership is there or not, set, one valid and one invalid equivalence class are defined. Say for example, I want to test whether the person attendance, suppose I am taking the attendance every day. So what we can say? We can say this person is there or not. Okay, so if it is there, the attendance will be kept. If it is not there, then attendance will not be kept. So if I will say, if I will roll call any person, so what he will say? He will be there or not. So I will check for two conditions only. Next, you can see if an input condition is Boolean, okay, is true or false, one valid and one invalid equivalence classes are defined. Similarly, that I told. So these are the these are the guidelines that is been suggested at the time of partitioning, making the partitioning, okay, making the equivalence classes. So say for example, you can see here equivalence partitioning, how it is done. You can see this is the input range. You can see here it is a input range minus 99, the number n is, okay, greater than or equal to minus 99 and is less than 99. So how many valid equivalence classes I have created? This one I have created, this one, okay, 0, 1 to 9, okay, and 10 to I have created 99. So like this, and these are the disjoints but belongs to the same category. They are following this relation, they are following these conditions. That's why we call the equivalence classes. So these equivalent classes we have created. We will also test for the invalid equivalence classes. So we can go for less than 99, means we can go this value, minus 99 means minus 100, okay, minus 101, we will go this side. For this also, for greater value 99 also, that is this. So now you can see here how the equivalence classes are created, and based on that test I will pick one value from here and I will check for the testing whether it is fulfilling the conditions or not. This is the valid, this come true, okay, this come false, because this is the invalid, okay, the system should say incorrect okay value. So like this we can create this equivalence valid classes, and from that we can take some value and we can test for the test the program or method or any functionality that is there. So like this thing is working. Say for example, phone also you will create the valid also and invalid also. So this type of, see, this is a invalid entry, but here you can say it is a valid entry. If you put the value in this format, it is acceptable. It is, if you are not giving this one, it is not acceptable. Okay, so this is the invalid. So you will check for the invalid and valid also, then you will come to the conclusion whether sometimes what happens, we have created, it is valid for this one working, sometimes also invalid value we are putting, that is also working. So that should not, if invalid, should not work the system. So say for example, also for area code, you can see we are having the area code from 200 to 999. So this middle value you will check. These are the valid one, and this is the lesser value from the 200 and greater value from the 900. This is the invalid. Okay, with non-numeric characters. So you will check this one, so this is invalid. Like this partitioning you can do for, let's have some real life examples. So suppose I have created one functionality in my system, that is the is. Okay, so it accepts value from the 18 to 60. Okay, so this is my valid class, valid range is there. From this, if anything I will enter, it will say yes. If I am not putting the value, okay, between this range, then what will happen? The system should say it is invalid. So like this you can see here. So I have taken the less than 17 or 17, whatever value will be there, less than 17 or 17, the system will should say it is invalid entry. Okay, so I will check only for one condition. I will put the 17, or you can say also 16. I will check, and I will leave. For all other lower value, it will be working. Okay, this functionality. Next one, if I will put the value between 18 and 16 also, 60 also. So if any value I am putting here, the system should say it is a valid entry. So this partition, from this partition I will check. I can check 18 or okay 60 or in between any value I will check, and I will find out whether it is valid or not valid. And also I will check invalid. So 61 is not following this condition, so my system should say it is invalid. Okay, should not accept the 61. So if it is accepting, then the system is not working. You have to make the corrections into the logic. Okay, so like this. So in this say you can say we are having one valid and two invalid cases. For the with that I have checked my system is working or not working. If I found any error, I uncovered any type of and whatever test cases failed, we will look for the solutions there. Okay, so you can see here also same thing. Flight reservation is there. This one flight reservation is happening, and number between 1 to 10 is valid. Anything above or below is invalid. Okay, so what is happening? We are having, if number of passengers for booking the ticket, if it is ranging from 1 to 10, then the ticket will be booked, the reservation will be done for the flight. If you are putting greater than 10, that is the 11 to 99 whatever, so it is a invalid entry. So immediately your system will show invalid entry, and you also have to verify with your test cases. So because it will if you will book the ticket, then zero, it will not accept. At least one person should be there. So this invalid case we have checked here, and this type of error should come if it is not giving the proper value. Okay, so this is the one case of equivalence partitioning. You partitioned into the valid and invalid. Okay, so I hope this equivalence partitioning method of test case generation and testing is you understood. Okay, so next one, the partitioning we did here. After the partitioning, now our next step is the boundary value analysis. The boundary value analysis, it helps to check that check the system at the boundary values only, not in between value or any number of the values there. So this says you check only besides the checking the all possible values, you just check at the boundary positions, and you can leave other things. So boundary value, how we can check? Like we have here, this section is valid. I will check. We have make this different partitions. So you can see here, invalid range is here. I will check for the -1.
Okay, I will check for the 101. So I will check the boundaries value whether it is working or not working. Boundary value means beginning and ending. Similarly, boundary value you can see here less than 4, that is the 3. So these are the boundary value. My acceptance range is, what is this? The value between 4 to 10. This is my acceptance range. So below this it is not acceptable. So what is the boundary value? This I will check for the 3, I will check for the 11, and I will leave other things. Okay, or you can check any other value between them. So these, if you are testing these boundary values as taking this as a test case for your system that you prepared, okay, if the test passes for this one, then your system is proper, no issue. Similarly for others also, we just have increased the range here. Okay, you can see here this example, real life example, you can see here that we come across it frequently. So this what is happening, it accepts valid username and password field to work on the tool, and accepts it, minimum 8 characters and maximum 12 characters. Okay, so these are the conditions, minimum 8 characters and maximum 12 characters. Okay, and valid range that you can you give 8 to 12. Okay, because you are telling minimum 8 and maximum 12. And invalid range 7 or less than 7, and invalid range 13 or okay more than 13. So in this way you will check for that one. So I will make the partitions here. My password is or username or password, whatever I am choosing, that is falling in this range or not. If not falling, then okay, it should say invalid. Okay, so this partition we did in these boundaries. If I have chosen any password of 13 characters, then the system should say error, you choose the correct password ranging in the 8 to 12. And if I am choosing only 7 characters in my password or ID, so it should say you choose the password between the 8 to 12. So this type of exercise you have seen by creating the password. Okay, sometimes strong and weak password conditions also comes. You can also test for that also. But this is a boundary value analysis. In the boundary analysis we will check the boundary value only. Okay, so next one you can see here, this is one example. You can see here, this is a Richter scale that sometimes earthquake or anything that comes now. So we also did this type of boundary value analysis also. Okay, and we have allocated some names. This partitioning we did, and we can check these partition values, boundary values. So if greater than 7.5 is coming, higher than 7.5, this is a catastrophic kind, means most building destroyed. Okay, so this type of happening is this is the quantum of damage that will be done based on these scales. So for this happening, we can put the value. These are the okay. So just it is sake of understanding what are the different values. Okay, so these are the this is the for some damage means so damage. So you can see here the boundary value is 5.0 and this is 5.5. Okay, at the level of disaster, the boundary value of higher is the 7.5 and lower value is 6.5. So these are the boundary value. So over this we can check out. So for understanding that, this example has been taken for how to understand these boundary values. Okay, starting and ending. Next one is the orthogonal array testing. This is also very important. This orthogonal testing, you can look here what is happening. So it is used when the number of input parameters is small and the values that each of the parameters may take are clearly bounded.
so they are bounded. You can see from this one, these are the bounded. Okay, can't go. And orthogonal means they are perpendicular to each other. X, Y, these are the perpendicular to each other. Orthogonal values are there. So this type of testing, orthogonal array testing is done. Okay, so here L9 is there. This orthogonal array we have created. So you can see L9 means 9 points will be here. You can count, it will come 9 here. 6 is there. So this type of because they are bounded. So once again you can see here the condition is input parameters. Parameters means A, B, C, D, whatever attributes you are having. Those attributes, those parameters are very less, and values that of each parameters may take are clearly bounded. Bounded above, bounded below, the condition you know. So so why we use this orthogonal testing? That is the good questions in the this testing part, test case design and testing part. So being intelligent about which test cases he choose can make all the differences between. Okay, if you are not choosing the correct test case, then many problems will may come. So what is happening? Endlessly executing tests that just are not likely to find the bugs and don't increase your confidence in the systems. Okay, if you are too much, you are trying to test each and every possible combinations in your software, then what is happening here? You are not able to find the bugs. Okay, and also and you are also not this will not increase the confidence, or too much work you are doing and you are not able to do that. Okay, so for the some range we have chosen. In that range, if you check for the boundary, they say okay, why you are going in between the tedious works. Okay, so executing a concise means a brief, well defined set of test, okay, that likely to uncover the most, not all but most, it will uncover of the bugs and give you a great deal more comfort in the quality of your software. Okay, so that's why we use this one. Okay, this orthogonal array testing you can see here. So how we test this one? We can take one example of web page. We have the web page. In that web page we have the header, we have the body, we have the footer. Okay, so 3 sections are there. Okay, so a web page has 3 distinct sections: top, that is header part, middle, and the bottom, that is the footer. Okay, so that can be individually shown or hidden from user. So we need to find these values. How you will find? So how many number of factors are there? You have to count this one. So I have 3 factors: top, middle, and bottom. So I put this value 3. Then how many number of labels are there? 2 labels. Either this header or whatever portion is there, it will be shown or it will be hidden. So there are 2 conditions here, 3 here, 2 here. Next, array type. So how you will create the array type orthogonal arrays? So it will be L4. Okay, this is the L4, and here 2 to the power 3, or you can say here orthogonal array 4, 3, 2, 2. So if you will calculate this one, you will come with how many? 8. So 8 possible test cases you have to prepare and you have to do. But I can do this one by using only the 4 also. How I will do? I will learn here. So what is here? Factors you can see here. The array will be here. The array that we created here, orthogonal arrays. Number of runs. Okay. Factors. How many labels and the strength. So in that we will do. If you go for exhaustive testing, okay, if you are not using any anything, that is the traditionally you will do. So how many possible ways will be there? This will be 8 test cases that you have to run. 8 test cases you have to run. Then can we reduce this one? Yes, of course we can reduce. How we can reduce? We can use this formula, this OAT, and we can reduce it. You can see here this the same example. You can see here there are how many runs, 4 runs we can take here, and these are the different f1 factors, f1, f2, f3, and how many, either the page will be shown or hidden. So 2 possible values are there, so we have taken. So if you are not using this this method, then you will there will be how many, 8, there will be 8 possible values for all test cases. You have to check for that. Okay, so but here we have reduced into the 4 test cases. If you check for these 4 test cases, you will be able to complete. So 4 versus 8, so 4 test scenario is enough to complete this one. You can look here whatever the conditions are there. So test 1 hidden, top hidden, middle hidden, and this all hidden. Okay, next hidden, visible, all the possible conditions 2 to the power 3. In that these 4, why? Because if we will complete these 4 test cases, all other test cases will inherently be covered in this only. That's why we are reducing to from 8 to 4. Okay, so this one, display the home page and hide all sections, like this type of condition. So we represent with this one, with 4 runs, 3 factors with 2 levels. So this is the model based testing. Uses information contained in the requirement model as the basis for the generation of test cases. So whatever requirement analysis we did, that will be used for the test case generations. That will work as a fundamental. So in many cases, model based testing technique use UML, that is the state diagram, and element of the behavioral model as the basis for the design of the test cases. So at the time of design and requirement analysis, we perform these collaboration diagram, state diagram, so many diagrams, UML diagrams we prepare there. So based on that we can prepare the test cases, and that is nothing but this is the model based testing. So we can understand with this example. You can say here we have one scenario, we have one test case. In this we can model one use case. So you can look here, we have the operation to open the door. So what is happening, it is a fingerprint based lock system. So here if some invalid fingerprint is there, the door will be locked. Okay, so you will not get the access. And next one is, if the valid fingerprint is there, then door will be unlocked, and if the time has got over, then automatically the door will be locked. So this is one case, one scenario use case. We can check for this invalid fingerprints and as well as the valid fingerprints. So with these we can verify we can test the models, putting these invalid and valid points. So this is based on the model that we have prepared, and we can represent this with the help of one use case. So that use case will be used as a testing purpose. You can see here also one more example you can understand here. So in this, what is happening, we have the requirement. In the requirement analysis phase, we did the requirement analysis, then we designed the algorithm, then we have some simulation software. We have the simulation we can do after the simulation, because simulation is a virtual environment that we create for the actual purpose. So we can test here whatever results we are getting, we can validate. So how we did the requirement analysis, then we have designed the algorithm, we have simulated this design, and we got some result. So let's begin this from this direction. If you so, we can create a requirement model. Okay, we can auto generate some of the test cases, and we can go to the simulation part. We can get the simulations of the to test for these test cases, and we will get some results. So what is happening here, and simulation requirement models is there, and here we are going to validate with this. So we will test all possible cases in this simulated environment, and if this is valid, it is working, then our testing is now completed.
So we are going to wrap up this lecture today.